So I just turned 40, and there are two things that I want for my birthday. The first goes back a long time. So I was raised on music. I was raised with music. My dad was a musician and always shared his music with me. You know, he grew up in the 70s and the 80s and always instilled in me an appreciation for the stuff that he always loved. But he was really good into the 90s as I was growing up about staying current with popular, especially rock music in the 90s. And that absolutely rubbed off on me to the point where music is a big part of my life. Like I remember being a kid in the stereo that we had in the basement at the house with, you know, the receiver and the EQ and the tape deck and the CD changer and the record player and just this bookcase stacked full of CDs and just crates filled with vinyl. And I had so much that I could listen to as a kid growing up. And I did. I listened to all of it. I remember the first CD that I ever bought with my own money. It was the Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. I think it was like 11 maybe when that came out, and that was the first CD that I bought with my own money. I remember the first concert that I went to. He took me to see Collective Soul. I was in fifth grade. I think it was 10 at the time. And it's just something that I always remember. And I remember all of the phases of music that I've been through, starting as a kid and getting into like kind of the 90s alt rock stuff, and then progressing on as a teenager into like the new metal stuff that was coming out at the end of the 90s and early 2000s. I remember getting into pop punk and then eventually progressing on to more progressive music. I was in bands all throughout high school and college, hanging out with my friends, playing all different kinds of music at community centers and bars and VFW halls and 4-H buildings. And music has just always been, from the time I was little, an important part of who I am, a big part of my life. But at about 23, I stopped listening to music. I don't know if I can pinpoint exactly when it happened or even exactly why it happened. I can get to a roundabout answer for both of those things, but around the age of 23, I just kind of stopped listening to music. And I think a lot of it was because I was growing out of the stuff that I had grown up on. I wasn't connecting with the stuff that I had been listening to since I was younger, lyrically, emotionally, but also musically. It just wasn't striking my interest the way it used to. And this was also when I was 23, it was about 2007, 2008 ish. So there were certainly new ways of discovering music at that point, but this was still before, you know, the real big explosion of streaming music services, Spotify and Apple Music and all of that. So I think part of the problem was that I just had a hard time discovering new music that I wanted to listen to. So I was bored with the stuff and I had outgrown the stuff that I grew up with, but didn't know how to discover new stuff. So I just kind of stopped listening to music, and that lasted like 15 years. And in that time, I listened to, you know, podcasts and audiobooks and told myself, I'm keeping up with the world and, you know, whatever bullshit idea that I gave myself. And I didn't really listen to much music during that time. There were a few things that had come out that I did get into, mostly new releases from bands that I had loved before. Some new things came out that I kind of listened to and was okay with. But new music wise, there really wasn't much of anything. So by the time I was turning 38, so 2 years ago now, it had been 15 years of just not really listening to much music, and I was starting to feel a certain way about it. It kind of was bugging me. It was getting to be a problem that I wanted to address because I felt like there was a hole. I felt like I was missing out on something. And it took me a while to identify what it was, that it was music, because it had been so long since I had really put any effort into it that it wasn't easy to identify what that hole was. But as soon as I did, things changed for me. Like I really got interested in discovering new music again, but I had to go about it in a different way. Because when I started listening again, I kind of thought maybe after a 15-year break of listening to things that maybe I would reconnect with some of the things that I loved when I was younger. So I tried to listen to some of that stuff, but other than just kind of having some nostalgia, there still wasn't a connection there. So I really had to put some effort into finding new music, or at least new music to me, that I could connect with again. So honestly, I chose a genre. I chose something that I thought was going to be entirely different from what I had been used to listening to. And I chose jazz. I wanted to listen to some jazz and see if there was anything there that could kind of click for me and get me interested and excited about music again. And it honestly worked. It's not something that I listen to regularly now. I did find a few things that I really enjoyed and are part of my rotation now, but it's not something that I really latched onto. But it did help kickstart a new, a renaissance in my interest in bringing music back into my life. That being said, finding new music still is a chore for me. It's not easy. It's, the paradox of choice, right? Where you've got a million things to choose from, but having such a wide variety of things to choose from makes it hard to just pick something and go with it. Personally, I work better when I have a solid guide or a set framework of things that I'm going to be listening to, or at least very strong recommendations of what I should be listening to. And that came to me when I discovered Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. I saw that list and I said, I'm going to listen to that. Like from 500 down to one. 500 straight albums from beginning to end. I'm going to listen to those. And so that's what I've been doing. I'm about 4 months in and I've listened through about 60 albums or so. This is definitely going to take some time to get through. And I had been talking to a friend about it and he said, he would be interested in doing the same thing, to the point that, now we're both listening to it. And we started a podcast talking about our experience listening through these albums on this list. Check out Do You Approve This Groove? We have a YouTube channel here, and whatever, podcast app you use, you could probably find us. We're just talking about these 500 greatest albums of all time. And I have to say that it has absolutely just blown my mind. I have been exposed to things that I never would have come across otherwise. I mean, just music that is just so far out of what I had ever been exposed to that I never would have come across if it weren't for this list. And I found a lot of stuff like that I really like. But I'm also forcing myself to listen to albums that I probably would have not given a chance if it weren't for committing to listening through all 500 albums. Albums in genres that I probably wouldn't have wanted to listen to or chosen to listen to, things that I would have said, that's not for me. I've been forced to listen to and have found myself actually really enjoying them. And so to bring this all back, this is my first birthday wish: to recommit to discovering new music, to listening and playing and even writing again and sharing my music journey with other people. Relatedly, I've always found creative work to just be supremely fulfilling. And I don't always have much of an outlet for that in my normal life. My job isn't particularly creative, and I'm busy. I'm a dad. I have 2 young kids that are on the go, but I'm always looking for a way to express that, to be creative in one way or another. And I've tried a lot of things over the years. Like I said, I was in bands when I was younger. As I've grown up, I've dabbled in a lot of other creative pursuits, woodworking and writing here and there. But the one thing that has really stuck for me is creating videos. I think what I like about creating videos is that there are just so many layers of it with which I can be creative from the beginning, from just coming up with ideas of things that I want to talk about or say in a video, to scripting out a video, or at least coming up with an outline for a video, and then obviously filming the video itself, and then editing it and posting it and interacting with people who see the video. There are just so many ways that I can be creative in the video world. And that's honestly been moderately successful for me, especially over on TikTok. I have a little over 20,000 followers there. I'm not, blowing up the world with it, but it's been rewarding. It's also something that I've learned a lot about. I've learned a lot about the process of making videos. I've learned a lot about the business of making videos. And I've also learned a lot about myself and the way I express myself and talk, and the information that I share and the way I communicate. I've learned that I have a very complicated relationship with niches, right? Whenever you hear about creating content and trying to get your content out there, you hear about, you have to niche down and that's a struggle for me because I see the value in doing that. I think you do have to be very specific about the audience that you're targeting. But I also struggle with feeling pigeonholed when that niche gets too narrow and too specific. I started my TikTok account as a woodworking account because it's what I was doing a lot of at that time. And that was great for a while, but eventually I realized that I wanted to talk about some other things and show some of my life outside of just what I was doing in my garage. And I moved on to talk about different topics, and I found that with that, I've been a lot happier with the content that I've created. I've also learned, though, that I have a strong desire to make long form content. I really want to put time and effort into being here on YouTube. I want to take it a little bit more seriously. I want to see where I can take this and how far I can go with it. But I've also learned that I don't know how to talk for more than like 60 to 90 seconds. Do I script things? Do I outline them? Do I just ramble and rant? I really don't know. And I've realized just in making 2 videos here for YouTube that everything that I've learned about how I present myself, how I talk, how I prepare for a video over on TikTok is very different for how I want to produce videos here on YouTube. And it's going to take some learning, but it's something that I'm really interested in putting time and effort and work into. So my second birthday wish is to really kick off a YouTube channel, and here I am. So I think the path forward, given those 2 interests and hobbies, is pretty clear with a music-focused YouTube channel. But I don't think that's really enough, and it's not what I want, because there are 10,000 YouTube music channels out there. What makes me different? What makes mine different? What makes anyone want to listen to me talk about music versus anyone else? And I think the big differentiator for me is that my goal isn't to make it a YouTube channel about music. It's a way to make a YouTube channel about my life with music. It's how I incorporate music into my daily life. It's my perspective as a now 40-year-old who had a big gap in their music listening experience, trying to rediscover and come back to it. It's my personal journey with music beyond just reviewing music that I've been listening to. So that's where we're heading, and I hope that sounds interesting to you because it's really exciting to me, and I'm really looking forward to what this journey can be for us. If it does sound interesting to you, there are a couple of ways you can show it. First, leave a comment. Let me know. What are some things you've been listening to lately? What are some music-related topics that you're interested in? And second, go ahead and like this video, share it with some friends, subscribe to the channel, all of those things that you're supposed to do to show that it's a video worth watching and YouTube can promote it to more people. But until next time, I'm Kyle, and I've got some music to listen to.